So code represents a fantastic way to encode thought. And there's something beautiful in seeing someone express themselves in code, live. It can also be terrible and painful, and that's often about what we bind to our fingertips, how we decide to control and what we control. Code has kind of already moved from just being function. This is a CSS poem where we start to see that it's not just about execution semantics, it's also about expressing yourself. We don't even need to run the code for it to be code and for it to be art. This was the auctioned Etsy little print, Hello World. I kind of want to give you a brief, I guess, example of what people are doing with this thing called live coding. Live coding, live manipulation of code, usually something running constantly, and the person writing code live for an audience. And then I'm going to do a little performance and just give you an example. So I kind of don't want to wait too long on the slides. This is an example of Alex McLean, and here they're doing generative poetry with music. So on the left they have generative poems, and on the right they have music, and the music is feeding into the poems, and the poems are feeding into the music. And again, this is all live or live synthesis, using stuff like Super Collider, which is an open source audio engine. Katie Sicho from New York is live coding dancers. So what she's doing is she's writing out her code, which is projected on the floor, and then the dancer is reading the instructions and dancing. So you can see she has jump there, various things. She's also working with sensors on the body, so that when she programs something, the dancer feels a buzz or some sort of feedback, and then hence changes the dance. And no computers is involved whatsoever sometimes, but she's still live coding a human being, which is kind of cool. It's Katie Sicho. Knut is a band I saw recently with a live coder and a drummer, and they're collaborating together. The drummer kind of has a MIDI set, and the coder is using something called Tidal and Haskell just to program sample manipulation and beats. This is, I guess, something interesting that happens when we talk about live coding, reinterpreting the interfaces and the editors that we have. This is something by Dave Griffiths called Fluxus, which is a common Lisp language, but he's decided to visualize closures or blocks, and it's called schema bricks. And the flashing lights are him actually having various synth aspects connecting and speaking to each other. So it's kind of what does an editor have to look like in order for us to perform live? John Griffiths is amazing and doing scary things. No code whatsoever. He's live hacking iMacs. So he's actually tapping into the hardware of the live running Mac, breaking circuits, I guess kind of circuit bending stuff, and creating visual effects from doing that. It's like amazing, but crazily scary. This is a Montreal group called the Cybernetic Orchestra. There's about, I think, kind of like 7 or 8 people. They sometimes have people remote. And each of them has a speaker next to them, and they're just writing code, again, I think using Super Collider. And each one is kind of playing to their speaker, and then they're all collaborating together. One of my favorite ones, and last before I just jump into some actual code. So this is a nightclub, and that's someone, Sam Aaron, coding in Emacs in a nightclub with people dancing to it. Just let the gravity of that like sit in. Like, Emacs was never intended to be in a nightclub, but that's part and parcel of the whole live coding scene. Is not necessarily just doing what we're told or expected to do with the technology, but for discovering for ourselves how we want to use it. And that's kind of what's been happening with things like Emacs and various other ways of thinking about how we code. So without further ado, I don't want to do too much talking. I'd rather do some coding. This has the potential to go very, very wrong, in which case we slam the laptop and move on. So what I'm doing, everything here is code. All the graphics you're going to see are OpenGSL shaders, just code. And the language I'm using is Clojure, and using Overtone, which is also everything I do is open source. You can go to my GitHub repo and steal all this code and perform with it yourself. So please, steal my code. So without further ado, I will try and do some coding, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, how should we start?
Some exquisite blend between beauty and practicality. Some exquisite blend. There's no reason to sacrifice either one of those. And people who are willing to sacrifice either one of those, I don't think really get what computing is all about.